All right. It looks like we're on. I'm going to put a marker in here, and away we go.
Get ready to laugh out loud with Wise and Nerdy, the show hosted by two hilarious dads who are bringing their unique blend of wit, wisdom, and nerdiness to the airwaves. From sharing hilarious anecdotes about their own experiences to giving advice on navigating the ups and downs of life, these two dads have got you covered. But that's not all. They're also obsessed with all things nerdy, from comic books and sci-fi movies to video and board games. So whether you're a fellow dad, a pop culture fanatic, or just in need of a good laugh, tune in to Wise and Nerdy and join in the fun.
What fun is that, you say? How dare you talk back to me? We're going to turn this podcast around and go home. Don't you talk back to me. So, hey, I am the Rock God Podcasting, Charles McFall, fresh back from Dragon Con, and we went without Big Rando, and that's just the way it goes. Sorry, man. You didn't show up. Can't help it. And that giggle that just warms the cockles of your heart, that is Joseph_Ard.
Oh, no.
And then the Andy Kaufman of podcasting, we have TVsTravis.
That's high praise. I'll take it.
And Kurt's surgery made him look. Okay, sorry. Reminisces says Kurt may or may not pop in tonight, right? Kurt had surgery yesterday. Yesterday.
It definitely wasn't today. It was either yesterday or the day before. I think it was yesterday.
And it was the Panama surgery. He took the equator out from around his belt, and it made. Then John Rendo Kid says Kurt's surgery made him look like a different person. So that's kind of true. But hey, Joe, how's it going?
Good.
You
good.
Look healthy.
Yeah.
This is always that intervention right after con. It's like, all right, you look healthy. How do you sound? You sound healthy. Travis said you you got by without any kind of con crud or anything.
Yeah. No, I came out unscathed. I have even gone so far as to take at-home tests. All it came up negative. I feel great, which is good. I figured I was going to feel like crap when I got home. Somehow I didn't.
So let me ask you this. So I noticed this about myself this year. Now I always go in mentally going wash my hands way more than normal. I try to wash my face with soap and water. I never wash my hands. But normally, like I'll sit on the show and I'll play with my beard or whatever. But I realized somewhere I burned in my brain subconsciously, I never touched my face when I'm at the con. So I wonder if that helps.
Could have. I don't know that I did any more than normal. Because I'll play with the beard or whatever. But I did definitely keep my hands cleaner, and I was paying attention to that. So I don't know. Just somehow I managed to avoid it.
Well, we know you avoid playing with your beard, Joe. But did you wash your hands more?
I always wash my hands a lot. So
tell me in sign language that you've never had a beard. Pulling the whole face down from the cheek, nose, everything.
I've had a beard before.
Sure.
I'll send you a picture later.
Hey, Random Kid. Random Kid says, all I'm hearing is that Charles doesn't wash his hands much unless he's at Dragon Con. There's no germs around me at home, man. Why would I need to? What? It's like the 5-second rule. If it's on the floor for less than 5 seconds, just eat it. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Your kids are little germ factories.
Whatever doesn't kill you just didn't try hard enough, and you got lucky this time. All right.
Wait for the sequel to come around.
Exactly.
It's the question of the week.
All right, Mike, we got a question of the week. Since we have TV show now, Travis, let's introduce you to everybody real quick, since you've already given some great stories and input so far.
Sure.
Where are you from?
So I do a few podcasts, mostly centered around movies and TV. I do a podcast, Charles, you've been on a couple of times, Wait You Haven't Seen, where I make somebody watch a movie for the first time, or they make me watch something for the first time. It can go in both directions. I also talk about classic TV, play some video games here and there, make stuff, and learning how to be a puppeteer.
Yeah, because you have your own puppet. I love it.
I have my own puppet of me, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I just love to talk movies, storytelling in general. And it doesn't have to be movies or TV. Storytelling in video games is always great. Books, radio dramas, podcasting, all that kind of stuff. So I just love stories and storytelling a lot. So that's kind of where I come from on a lot of it.
The background music I heard while you're saying that is from Princess Bride, the storybook story.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Great. It fits your story well. So with that in mind, Joe, what question did you come up with inspired by Travis being on tonight?
What movie couldn't be made today?
So this is an interesting one, right? Because people will always gravitate to something like Blazing Saddles and say that.
Oh no, that's where my brain went immediately. Yeah,
and I get that, but the thing with Blazing Saddles is you could still make it today.
I think
you just wouldn't make it the same way. Mel Brooks, if he were, I mean, he is still alive, but if he were in his prime, if he were doing that today, he would do the same type of movie. He would just do it differently.
The messaging would have to be different to reach today's generation, but it'd have the same.
Oh, sure. Sure, absolutely. But that's the beauty of comedy. It's hard to say, right? Because movies are such a time capsule of when they're made. Even timeless movies still have the stamp of when they were made on them, and there's no way around that. So it's impossible.
Even look at Gone with the Wind. There's scenes in there that people
sure,
complain
absolutely.
about nowadays, and I consider that a timeless movie.
Yeah, anything can be both timeless and a product of its time. And it's an unfair thing to say, well, you just couldn't make that movie today. Because no, you wouldn't make it that way. It's like the debate. I'm also a big basketball and baseball fan, and you get that all the time, of the greatest of all time. And Babe Ruth couldn't play baseball today because he would get, no, you can't just pluck, Babe Ruth out of 1932, drop him in today and say, go play baseball, because it's not the same world. It's not the same environment. Just like you couldn't take Shohei Ohtani from today, drop him into 1927 and expect that, because there wasn't going to be somebody throwing 100 miles an hour back then, except for maybe Walter Johnson. But anyway.
But you could absolutely drop Michael Jordan into today's basketball, and he'd still be the GOAT.
So, but that's the thing, right? Like, he's an exception to a rule, because like him and Kobe Bryant, they had a different gear that they could go to, where like Michael Jordan wanted to beat you at anything and everything. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, if you busted out tiddlywinks, he wanted to beat you in that and just drive you into the ground for it. And that's the thing, is like, you have to look at eras and you have to look at sort of how you would do stuff. So for me, I can't say there's a single movie that couldn't be made today, because there's a whole just ton of movies that wouldn't get made today. A good example. Yeah, I mean, a great example is a movie like Murder by Death. I don't know if either of you have ever seen or heard that one.
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
It's a great spoof film, but it is great. Film.
It's a parody film, but it is like, think of Clue. It's that kind of a movie. It's that murder mystery, but it's a spoof. It's making fun of murder mysteries.
Yes.
But you wouldn't make... Yeah, Agatha Christie stuff, Sherlock Holmes, all of that. Yeah. You wouldn't make that movie today the way that they did, because you have Peter Sellers in that movie playing a spoof of Charlie Chan.
Yeah, that's
what now, if you take it through the lens of they were making fun of the fact that Charlie Chan was always portrayed by a white actor, it works, but surface level, it doesn't read well. So like, that's the kind of thing that couldn't get done today, because it wouldn't be done today. Like Fisher Stevens was the character Ben in Short Circuit and Short Circuit 2. Fisher Stevens is not Indian, but he was playing an Indian character. I have seen interviews with him talk about, you know what? I took the job because I was 20, I needed work. They asked if I could do the accent. I worked on it. He lived with an Indian family for several months before Short Circuit 2 to like really work on the character. But he's like, if somebody came to me today and asked me the same thing, I wouldn't do it. Or if I were doing that now, I wouldn't, because he understands the difference in that. But at the time, it was just acting. So it's like, that question is always so loaded, because you could make just about any movie today. Maybe Birth of the Nation. That might be the one I would say.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, neither do I.
It's
That's probably why he
white.
couldn't make the movie today.
Yeah, it's some white supremacy stuff. But no, it's hard to say like a single movie. But what about you, Charles?
I could say two. You're right. It's hard to say a single movie. I can tell you two right now. One is Ernest Scared Stupid, because nobody should have greenlit that script for any reason ever. And I love Ernest films, but that thing was bad.
All right, so we're going to disagree on that because
You like horror films. But even
well,
the
I
horror
do,
films,
but
I didn't like it.
but I also that is honestly my favorite Ernest film is Scared Stupid.
Really?
Now, some of that is a nostalgia factor because I saw it a lot as a kid, but it's just the
Sure.
right brand of dumb and hilarious, and it's got Eartha Kitt in it. It's got jokes that I still quote today. Steven and I, our friend Steven and I will quote that movie back and forth. So yeah, anyway, sorry, go on.
What about Frankenweenie?
They have made that today. They
I
remade
know,
that.
and they shouldn't. It was so bad the first time, and just as bad, maybe a little better the second time. Joe?
The first thing that comes to my mind is one that I'm kind of doubting Charles has ever seen, and I don't know Travis well enough to know whether he'd seen it. 7 Brides for 7 Brothers.
I've heard of that one. I have not actually watched it.
I know bits of it. I'm aware of the music more than I am of the movie.
Same.
And I had to pause for a second, but I realized because I worked up audio for a local theater for a little while when I was younger, but it was Oklahoma. They did Oklahoma, not 7 Brides.
Yeah, I mean it's 70 years old, but these 7 brothers basically kidnap 7 brides and Stockholm syndrome them for a winter until they want to they all get married. So,
Yeah, that's a little rough. I mean, there's definitely a lot of stuff like that. There's a lot of things in movies and television that would be done completely differently today.
yeah. Well, even like some of the stuff in, say, Rush Hour, you were talking about scenes that couldn't be made. There's definitely some scenes in there that I think nowadays people would be a lot more critical of, with just the different racial jokes and things like that. Or even The Ringer,
Yeah.
where he pretends to be a person with a mental illness to fix the Special Olympics.
Yeah. Although, to that movie's credit, it does not punch down. And that is important to note, is comedy that doesn't punch down can work.
So punching down, Joe, when they make fun of something that they shouldn't.
Yeah, like midgets.
Oh, getting canceled, sir. Getting canceled. You have to say midget.
I'm sorry.
There's a Borderlands reference.
Small people. Even like, so the Ringer still has my favorite F-bomb in any PG-13 movie.
Mm-hmm.
When
it's so good.
Did we get ice cream?
Yeah.
I laughed so hard at that moment.
And it was ad-libbed. That's the best part of it.
Yeah.
I think this is a good hybrid film because nobody would make it today, right? Brand spanking new, because one, Johnny Knoxville and the TV show / team Jackass, so we don't get censored. But it was in its heyday. Now they're not, right? So they definitely couldn't do it, and I don't think anybody else would greenlight it. But what I do love about that film is what Travis was talking about. It's not just the punching up; it celebrated all the other people in the film, and the person pretending was the villain of the film who was trying to be the hero. And it was, it was pointing out the fallacies of it. And then, that's one of the best improv death bombs ever.
And the way it wrapped up was perfect given the setup. I'm not gonna. I mean, if you haven't seen it yet, you haven't seen it yet. But I'm not gonna spoil it. Just
wait,
now.
You haven't seen? There's a show about that.
So
fair enough. Here is a voice from Dragon Con.
Roll that die.
How do I?
Live without you. This one was. This is for Travis. That's right. So Travis, I think all of us are going to jump in on this. We had a few talks along these lines this past week. How do I trust the process and just create?
I mean, that's the $1 million question, right? Like I struggle with that all the time because I've got ideas and I need to put them down. I need to get it, pen to paper or boots on the ground. But I think the big key is to trust the process. Don't think about having to do all of it by yourself. Surrounding yourself with other good, like-minded people is going to take you a long way. It doesn't have to be a dedicated partner or a dedicated co-host or it can be nebulous. You can have somebody that you just bounce ideas off of. You can have somebody that maybe you go to for advice on something, but having a support system to get you through that process, I think, is the big one. And that was a big change for me that got me going on this whole creating journey.
So, like with support system, are you talking about Facebook groups, friends, other podcasters? Do you have anything specifically that you lean on?
I mean, for me, it's other podcasting friends that I've made. The big kind of watershed moment for me personally was when I got onto America's Next Top Podcaster, and I did that show because prior to that, I had been doing the podcast. I finally kicked myself into gear and said, "All right, I'm going to start this podcast," because I had been waiting for a long time for that partner, that second person, and I just didn't have that. So I said, "Fine." I talked to a few friends of mine and got this rotating group of people, and I could get a hold of a couple of them, bring them in. Nobody had to dedicate to every single week, every single episode. But then America's Next Top Podcaster came along. I got involved in that, and that blew open the doors and brought a whole bunch of new stuff in, because now I wasn't dealing with just people I already knew. I was now meeting and getting to know other podcasters from other areas. That was big for me because I needed that expansion beyond my inner circle and my personal friends. And that also helped me to trust the process because they're all the same as I am. And, there's no hierarchy and difference between these people doing a show for the last 8 years and this person who's been doing it for the last 8 months. Like, we're all just kind of that level of hobbyist podcaster. That was the big one for me. So that helped me to trust the process because other people out there were going through the same thing I was. And then I could lean on them. I got to know them, got to work with them, forced to work with them, but it then expanded. I'd have maybe somebody come onto a show and then I'd go on their show and it would just be, next thing I know, I'm doing a show with a friend that I met through that type of thing. So, it's just getting out there doing that. But yeah, podcasting groups, other shows, groups on Facebook can work as well. Discord is one that I'm in a lot. So, finding groups that are just interested in the same things that you are. And that's how I ended up at Dragon Con this year. So
we're going to talk about that very shortly, but I love it. I love that. I did not know Sean Weiland was in this season of America's Next Top Podcaster.
He was in a season
4,
after. Yeah, he was in 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was because I was part of season 2. I'm in that Discord for America's Next Top Podcaster. So when they would do 3 and when they did 4, I would get in touch with all the contestants kind of after they got done. I'd let them go through the gauntlet. And then after that, I would start talking to them all and getting people on. And I've had most of the contestants of ANTP on my show at one point or another.
Nice. I'm a little disappointed. Ibit promised me he'd go and put in the rules no deities allowed. Because one, he's already written me out of everything. Like you can't in less than 10 years. You can have no professional affiliations. Like, come on, man. He's just telling me you don't want me on the show. It's fine. Kurt.
Hey, how you guys
I
doing?
think you could be on America's Next Top Podcaster.
I've thought about it, and now I always find out about the submission deadline 3 weeks after.
Yeah. No, I've bugged Ibit many times. Like, dude, if you're not going to let me compete because you're scared, then let me come be a guest judge. I've got a lot to offer, and I keep getting the hand. Yeah. Always the bridesmaid, never the top podcaster. So how you doing, Kurt? What we're talking about, actually, you just came into How Do I? but it's about trust the process and create. We can talk about that, but also everybody wants to know, how are you?
Yeah.
I am generally doing okay. There is some pain, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, it's the recovery's going okay. It was literally I went into the hospital at about 10:30 yesterday, and I was home by like 3:30.
Damn.
They didn't do the
And
standard get here at 4 a.m. and wait 5 hours.
no,
Right.
in fact, I showed up a little bit early because that's what I do. And it was like, okay, we're ready for you. And it's like, what? So they brought me into the room and started taking my vitals and everything. And before I knew it, like the anesthesiologist was so good that they didn't do, okay, start counting down from 100. There was none of that. It was literally like we were talking about something and then I wake up.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Yeah,
And it
he's
was
like,
awesome.
tell me a dad joke. Just kidding.
I love general anesthesia. Like I legitimately enjoy it because it's like a nap
Yeah.
that you weren't planning, but you got to do. So, and then I spent a lot of time yesterday just sleeping because where the anesthesia was still running through, and but the pain has been. I mean, it's there. There's no question about it. But like I have Percocet for one of my pain meds, and I haven't taken one yet.
Right, yeah.
Because it's like right now, just sitting like I am, I'm not particularly in pain. I'm exhausted to be sure. And if I twist a certain way or whatever, it's going to hurt because literally there's a cut from hip to hip. Yeah. So, and I've got lovely drains on either hip, which I have to collect and measure the fluid, which is always a pleasure. But yeah, it could be worse. Could be a lot worse.
What do you say to the rumors flying around on the internet that you only did it so you could have at least a week of straight Balatro?
Well, I'd say that is partially true because because I get a week of straight switch Balatro because I'm not sitting at my computer.
So you heard it here, Phil. He admits to it.
But, here's the other thing. Balatro on mobile comes out September 26th.
I'm going to have to buy it again. That sucks.
I am. I'm going to end up doing it. But, yeah, no, it's been fine. My son took the week off, and he's helping out at home and doing a lot of things that I can't do. And I'm still not allowed to, I can't lift anything more than 5 pounds for, 6 weeks. So it's, yeah. Yeah. So, but no, it's fine. I'm just exhausted all the time right now. So.
I believe it.
So Joe, let's jump back into, so we'll get Kurt Warren back in here. How do you trust the process and just create?
One of the things that it makes me think of is when we were at Chattacon, I went to a panel with Mary Robinette Cole, and she was talking about her process when it comes to being an author and writing, and how there's parts of that she absolutely hates, just absolutely hates. And so she has found someone that will do those relatively small tidbits for her so that it doesn't become a hindrance to her creative process. And that's kind of what Travis was talking about, how you don't have to go it alone. You just need to find people that complement you. So yeah.
You look great today, Joe.
Thanks.
Kurt's silent laughing, and Travis tried to hold it back. Screw you guys both. Screw you guys. So, Kurt, what do you think? How do you, because you've done story time with Kurt, you've done a number of things that are solo. How do you do it?
Trust in yourself. So I think that where we tend to be the least creative is when we are worried about how it's going to be perceived by other people, whatever we're doing. And so I think honestly, the best advice is just create. Just let it happen. And it might be shit. Oh, crap. Sorry. It's been a while. I'm sorry.
Wow, that anesthesia is still kicking in hard, sir.
Yep. It might be bad. It might be bad, but having it be done and be bad is better than not having done it at all.
Yes.
And then it gives you something you can work from also, because you may read it and go, "Ooh, that wasn't good," but maybe it could be better.
Mm-hmm.
So
That was a big thing I took away. I sat in on the digital Shark Tank panel over the weekend at Dragon Con, and that was one of the things somebody had brought up a project, and the panel was telling them, like, just make it, write it, get it written down. You can't be good at something until you're bad at it first. And
everybody goes through a bad phase at the beginning.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't, and that is the thing that I have to constantly tell myself is like, it's the adage of don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Like, get something out there, do the thing. I had a tendency to really be bad at that. Now it's like I've got some things that I'm still holding on to a little bit too much and trying to be too precious about, and I got to cut that loose and be like, no, I'm going to do this thing because I can always do it better later. But if I don't ever do it, then all I'm going to do is wonder what it could have been instead of here it is type of thing. So,
well, here's the weird secret about doing something crappy up front is years later when you actually get pretty good at it and you can go back and take a look and go, you know what? I improved from that. Like that initial stuff. You can always go back and go, wow, it's gotten better. It's gotten a lot better. And without that perspective, we don't get that sense of accomplishment all the time, especially as creatives, where we just create and it's more because we need to get something out, but sometimes we don't get that fulfillment in our own little bubble.
Yep.
So
yeah, Travis, do you think that, because I know the general gist of America's Next Top Podcaster is you basically have a week between assignments, so you've got to get it done on a timeline with a team, typically like a partnership or whatever. So did that help did it help you build habits of just getting things done?
Absolutely did. I do that, and then the other thing that I do is I find creators that I like and or admire, and I try to incorporate things that they do. So like one thing for me I know is I'm going to be lazy about editing a podcast. Not because I can't do it, just because I will kick the can down the road and be like, I can get to that later. So I started really working on making all my editing happen in my head as I'm recording it. The less post-editing I have to do, the better for me. So that's a thing that I really worked on, and that was something that I learned while on ANTP, was like getting it in the moment, because you don't have a lot of time. You're only going to get one or two takes, or if it's an interview, you only get one shot at that interview. So that's the kind of stuff that ANTP was huge for both the networking part of it and then just the skills that I picked up and little things that I learned. I mean, even like a very simple editing trick when I'm putting, because I play a lot of audio clips on Wait You Haven't Seen. And during that, I remember specifically Jenny Josephson telling us, like, if you're going to play a clip of something, one thing to do is put a very short fade in and fade out on either end of that when you take that clip, so it's not a harsh start or stop where you get any kind of a pop to that, and a fraction of a second. But I do that. I pick that up from there, and I do that on every clip now, and it does sound better. So like little things like that I picked up that I brought with me.
I'd be such a good judge and mentor. Come on, Ibbot, you're killing me. Sorry, I almost made Travis spit. No, exactly. It's go get what you want, and I'm that bulldog that, well, if I want to go get this, I'm going to figure out how to XYZ and build this or do that. And throughout the years, I've built I don't know, half a dozen different websites depending on the code. Now I just like Linktree, because it does everything I need it to do for my stuff, or Wise and Nerdy, for whatever shows. You find the ways to make it happen. And at a certain point, I realized that my own promotion of I can help promote anybody else. Like Tyra was like, hey, I can't write my own promotion. In like 10 seconds, I had her stuff written, done. But to write my own thing, I find it too wordy or difficult, or I never settle. Yep. So that's where Tyra and I have partnered, is she will write all of the serious stuff that I have to put out, like bios and stuff that I have to put out for myself, she writes those for me. And then I help do editing. I bring other things to her. You find that trade, and that's your point of Travis about surrounding yourself with people. And Kurt, just getting it done, man. Like I said, just record the diary thing. You didn't call it a diary, but that's how I've always thought of it. Is at one point my podcasting career, like the bear crawling, a lot of the bear crawling era when I went solo was an audio diary, and I was actively thinking, I'm going through trauma now. And I'm trauma dumping and I'm working through stuff, but I know years from now I can come back and look at it. And I was on a panel about, I think, creating in a digital world is what the panel was. And that was one of the things I wrote down but didn't get a chance to bring up is those mile markers, like you were talking about, Kurt, where you're like, oh, so bad. And then you might get to a point where you're doing a project now and you're feeling down on yourself or you're feeling that creative block, and you go and say, like, oh, look at all these markers I've hit. Look how far I've come. Right. For the first couple, I think you were actually around for some of this, Kurt, but the first couple of years of me going to Dragon Con, the whole joke was friend of the show, because I would just name drop like nobody's business. Right. And they're a friend of the show. But that was a mile marker to me. I was very proud that I set goals in my life to be a professional podcaster, and I get to work with this person, that person. And John says Charles would break an arm off patting himself on the back. No, I can do it both hands at once, baby. I can still reach myself. I'm good. Got long arms. They don't break.
I find it funny that John thinks that would phase you.
Yeah, if I have two broken arms, like, Joe, hold your hand out. I'll pat my own back on your hand. It's all right.
Hey, so just because I need to jump in here, I have to run because again, it wasn't going to be more than a cameo tonight because I'm still
I'm just kidding, Kurt. I'm just kidding.
All right.
But no, thank you, man.
So I only have two things to say. One, find me at VO by Kurt everywhere, and two, shut up, Mike. All right.
Hey, Kurt, put your head to the screen and be healed, my son. Be healed. Head. Put your head. I got to put my hand on your head.
I had my hand.
Head.
I can't bend that far.
I can't lean.
That's
all
true.
Right. All right. Thank you. And Travis, thank you for jumping in. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
You're looking great.
Thank you very much.
Quick recovery.
All right. Well, we'll see. All right.
Quickish.
Quickish. All right. We'll talk to you later. See
all right.
All right. Now, the point John does bring up is I'm busting Charles's chops, but honest, his confidence is what is necessary to be successful. And that for me absolutely was. There was a point where it's fake it till you make it kind of deal. I was like, I can't come off as scared as I feel in the early days. I can't come off going, what do you want to listen to? I just had to go through. And what helped me was just bearing my soul and having just one person write and go, hey. And I mean, Phil made the joke at con. It's like, oh yeah, your family was so messed up, it made their experience better. But they did write in, it's like, hey, you talking about your family experiences, it helps me. And it helps me review my life and my experiences and those kind of things. And that gave me more confidence to go on. I mean, we'll throw this out when we go on the next one. But Travis, I mean, what did you do to get a confidence boost? Because if you don't have confidence, you're not going to keep going. So right. What kept you going? What was that confidence booster?
It was, I mean, I keep coming back to it. Like ANTP was the first one because it made me realize I can do this and I can do this with these other people.
How
and
far
some
did
of
you
them
get in that, by the way.
Upper half. I think I was out around the top 5 of 12, somewhere around there.
That's
so I did all right. And it really it came down to I had made some decisions that particular week and I took ownership of what we did. It didn't work and I was the one voted out. Somebody was going home, The fact that I was even on it was huge for me, but it gave me that confidence boost of like, oh, because some of them were people that I had heard of or heard shows of before, but also getting to work with some of the people. And it was like, all right, there's a confidence boost. And then from there, it was like the next big one was hitting 100th episode, because that's a big number. And like, I'm like, all right, well, that's, I can do 100 episodes. Let's just keep going. And then, it was booking a specific guest and it was working with a certain person and it was expanding out to doing a second show. And also getting like just random, the first time I got random feedback from somebody that I didn't know that sent me an email and was like, hey, I listened to your show. I had one for the Highlander show that I do with Audie. Out of nowhere, got an email from somebody in Argentina that was listening to the show, loved Highlander, and loved our show. And I was like, this is the most random thing ever, but awesome. Like, and that's that thing. You touch that one person that that takes something away from what you've done in a positive or negative way for that matter, but in a positive way especially, gives you that boost to keep going. And then, like, just this past weekend, coming down that escalator and seeing people lined up out front of the Galleria room before the show that I was doing, the panel that I was doing, was terrifying at first, but also like, damn, people are here to hear me talk about something. That's pretty cool. And, you know, it helped that I had you and Phil on the panel. Like, that made it, you guys made it easy. But again, there's what I'm talking about. You find the support system that you need. I needed personalities like you and Phil there to help me, you know, do that show in that environment in front of those people. You know, if you need somebody that does editing, or you need somebody like Tyra that can do promotion, because I can promote other people. I'm like you. I can promote everyone else all the time. I'm doing it right now with friends of mine. You know, all sorts of stuff. When it comes to promoting myself, I'm terrible at it. I just don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. So, no, it's just little things along the way, little stepping stones, mile markers that just, you take that and you get a little bit of momentum and then try to carry that momentum to the next one.
And one, I want to say, I love how much of a river of water Travis is. I keep dropping boulders in, and he splashes and answers me and comes right back to his thought. And it's like so great. It's great. Joe, what's your confidence booster?
You are, Charles.
All right, thanks for the show, everybody. It's been great. We'll see you. Oh, that's the wrong one.
No, it's just when it comes to podcasting, I've always thought I could do that. And so when the opportunity came up with Pokemon Go podcast, when Bo was looking for people to co-host, I was like, I could do that. You know, it's never been the talking about it. It's always been, at least at the beginning, it was the technical side of things that I didn't know how to do. But I was like, okay, well, if I can hop in with someone who's already an experienced podcast host, they can help out with the technical side of things, and I can just talk about stuff. And so it's jumping in and learning as you go.
And the fact that you held your own with me and Brian Ibbett at the same time should be a boost. If you go, I didn't know who you are, well, that's your bad, not ours. So, all right, now you can roll some dice.
Alrighty.
Daddy, tell me a story
about your Dragon Con experiences. We've been waiting for this one. So it's been a whirlwind, as it always is, of a week at Dragon Con. And all three of us got to be there. And I know, Travis, this is your first time coming. So who's excited? Who wants to jump in with the first Dragon Con experience story?
Oh man, there was so much that we did at Dragon Con just in general. But I really ended up liking the parenting in the digital age panel that I sat in on. Who
are you on that panel with?
I was on that panel with Luke Gygax, the son of Gary Gygax, which was pretty awesome. But yeah, no, it was a fantastic panel, and a lot of people came up to ask questions afterwards. Like, we got kicked out of the room because there were just so many people asking questions.
That's awesome.
And several of the people that came to ask questions also came to the Wise and Nerdy panel as well. Nice. And a lot of people came up, and their question was real quick, was, what was that podcast you mentioned at the beginning? And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was great. It was a great experience, a great time.
And I assume that you put the tagline with it, because that's the real hook, where fatherhood meets fandom.
Yes, I made sure to explicitly state that, because it's parenting in the digital age. So I was like,
right,
you know, Just so you know, I talk about this every week.
We need to get Luke on.
Yeah, except I don't have his contact info.
Well, I'm sure if you reached out, we'll figure it out off air. We'll figure it out. But I'm sure if you reached out,
I'm sure that can
him,
be found.
Yeah, you go, hey, I was the dude sitting next to you on the, blah blah. What about you, Travis? I know everything was new to you, and let me tell you, this dude, Travis, is calm as a cucumber. I mean, it's. I'm sure at points you were tired. I'm sure at points you were nervous. I'm sure you were very enjoying the moment in some points. The whole thing is what you see right here on the screen. It's just Travis. Like if he's tired, you don't see it. If he's happy, you're good.
I have worked really hard to get to this level of zen. I will tell you that, because like high school age, early 20s version of me would have just been like just walking flop sweat the entire time at Dragon Con. I wouldn't have been able to talk to anybody, and I barely would have been able to make eye contact. Like I've really worked on that. But one of the things for me that was so cool, aside from getting to do a live episode of my show in front of people at Dragon Con on the digital media stream, all of that, was just finally getting to see so many people that I have worked with, that I have done shows with in person, meeting you, both of you, meeting, Steven and Phil and all these people that I had worked with, and getting to, give hugs and hang out and just chat and sit and have a drink. There was a moment where Daddy Steven, Phil Keating, and myself were all talking, and we realized all three of us, within about a year of each other, had been in Orlando contemplating going to Full Sail University all at the same time. And just kind of how it came up in the conversation. None of us went, which was even funnier. But it was that kind of stuff. It was running into friends and getting a few minutes to talk to them, or sitting down and spending an hour and a half over a bottle of mead with a friend, like that kind of stuff. It was amazing.
Did you have anybody who had listened to your show that had not been on your show that came by to see you, like a fan?
I don't think I had anybody that had listened to it that I can recall that hadn't been on. But at least nobody that I spoke to. Well, no, there was a couple people, I think, when I was sitting in the Loodle crew that were that had at least heard me on shows and were like, "Hey, I love listening to you talk about whatever," or something like that. So little bit of that, which is always fun.
Right, it is. It is so much fun. That was my highlight of the con. We haven't got to the point. I don't feel like I've gotten to the point where I put out shows enough that people are like, man, I've been listening to your show a long time. Joe and I both have had people come to the con who weren't like regular contributors, but were part of the community and that kind of thing. But
you know what I just realized, Charles? This is the first Dragon Con where Brant Paddock hasn't come up and said hi to us.
Who?
Brant.
The one kidding. No, I know who he is. I know who Brant is.
The patron that you put to work the first year.
I know. He was part of our community. He learned the hard way. You don't show up early and sit in the audience when we're setting up, because Charles will put you to work. And to my defense, though, it was a year with a bunch of new, like 3 or 4 new volunteers. I didn't know everybody's face. I'd done Discord or whatever instead of videos. And so I didn't recognize him because he never visually interacted with us. So I thought he was one of the volunteers. Anyway, I did the kickoff panel at 5:30, the Convergence, and it got deep. I always try to just set a tone about creating and this and that, and talking to different people about it. And it really did, just the whole idea of trusting yourself, imposter syndrome, those kind of things really just started hitting immediately, and people were sharing messages and whatnot. And then the next day, so that was Thursday night and Friday, my first thing was, here comes the friend of the show, name drop. But I got to go sit on the stage with Danny Trejo, and I just blanked Joe, Anson Mount. Anson Mount. And I was recording the podcast for Anson Mount the Well, which is a really good podcast. I mean, he has this big thing about creation and being connected through creativity and that kind of thing. But the fun part about that, so I did that one, and then an hour later we did it again in another ballroom, and some of the same people came. when the first time he was not nervous, but he wanted to make sure everything worked. So he came out like 30 minutes early. We did test recordings, and he just stayed out there. He talked with the audience. And then, so part of that show that was the best was Danny Trejo's on the opposite side, and I'm sitting behind Anson Mount. So as I'm looking over, Danny's doing the human thing and connecting with Anson, and then connecting with me. So like, there's times when Danny's telling me the story. I'm like, this is the best seat in the house. But that was cool. So the second Anson Mount show, the audience just kind of started talking to me because he went out there. So we're just chit chatting back and forth. And they asked, how did, I took the opportunity to say, hey, if y'all don't know what digital media track is, that this is one of those panels. We do everything like the Well podcast. We do YouTube, TikTok, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, that's telling them where we were. And they asked a question. They started asking me questions and different things about, well, how'd you get him? Did you approach him? So I got to tell the story. But I'd say all that to say, so later on that afternoon, or it might have been Saturday morning, I had 3 people come up to me. 2 were for the Anson Mount stuff, and basically they came through and somebody's like, thank you so much for bringing them. That was such a great experience. Thank you for making that experience happen. Those kind of things, which, obviously it's not a fan of mine, but it was still what I do, right? Help others to be awesome. So that was cool. But then I had a lady come up to me and said, I really, really loved your panel. I was there Thursday night at the kickoff, and that was really amazing. And you said, I forget what she said, but she said, you said this, and this. And I'm like, what more can you ask for as a creator? For somebody to just come up and tell you personally that something you did affected them.
I mean, I had that right after Wait You Haven't Seen. He Who Is Steve came up to me about coming back on my show because of some stuff we had talked about during the episode. And about like adaptation, about taking a project and adapting it to another medium. And like that was awesome because that's the type of thing I love. I love starting those conversations and getting that kind of stuff flowing. So that was great.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
I want you to have a Wait You Haven't Seen episode with Joe, but it's got to be that new Winnie the Pooh horror movie.
No, I'm sorry. I'll veto that right now. I'm not watching that. I refuse.
Me
like
either.
I have watched some bad stuff, and I am the guy who likes everything. It gets hard to make a movie that I don't like. And that's one I no interest in it at all. And they're making more.
One. Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, and now there's a Steamboat Willie. When
it's just
why do they have to be horror? Why they're
because it's
domain. Why,
because it's cheap to make and it's shocking and it's low hanging fruit. It's dumb. Yeah, it's lazy. So I don't like it. You can do because horror and horror parody can work and do really, really well. Shaun of the Dead is a prime example of that. Anna and the Apocalypse is great. If you ever, that's a horror comedy musical. It's zombies. It's really good. But I just some of these are bad. And that's one of them. So, no, Joe, I'll have you on the show, but we're not watching that.
What about Book of Mormon?
Roll that dice.
I don't know. Maybe.
Did they turn that into a movie? I knew it was a play.
I don't think they did, because I probably would have seen it by now.
Did you ever hear what my church's response was to that?
No. What was it?
They bought a billboard outside the theater that said, "You've seen the play, the book is better."
So credit where it's due. That's pretty good.
What do we get on the dice, sir?
All righty.
A commercial break would be good right now.
Oh! I got a counterpoint to that.
Let's get paid.
All right, this is how this works. We're playing a little cool music. Let's see what we got here.
Some cool jazz.
It's definitely not jazz. You know what? Let's go with one of our originals. There we go. We would love some royalty-free music. If you make music and you'd like to have it on the show, just send it to us. I'm not guaranteeing we'll play it on the show. It has to fit our vibe. We have to like it. I'm not going to lie. But we're not going to dog you out if we don't like it. So that being said, we also want you to come join the family. Patreon.com/wise_n_nerdy. That's where you can jump in and be a part of everything we do. So come support the show there. We got, you understand, I still have to cover Travis's airplane ticket at DragonCon. So we could use your help. Come on in. When we get awesome guests like this, we have to pay for it. So come help us out. And let's jam for a second. That was not as good as some of the others we have, but I like it all right.
Wasn't bad.
And
It's
you
a
know
good beat.
what? Oh yeah. I get so. I need to always do something fresh and new. I need to start learning how to mix my own music. I want to turn everything into dubstep. You know, 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, dubstep. But so what we do now is we hear from you, and you can go to SpeakPipe. Oh wait, you don't go to SpeakPipe. You leave a SpeakPipe on wiseandnerdy.com/calldad. And Joe, what have you got lined up? And I know John kept trolling Dad Joe while we're getting ready for the show.
All right. Yeah, so we've got a bunch from Devo site. We're going to start off, though, with one from Cousin Mike.
Hey guys, Cousin Mike calling in. You're kind of talking about One Piece in one of the recent episodes and talking about the new The One Piece produced by Netflix. And it's not just a reshoot or like a repacing. It is a full from the ground up reanimation. They're redoing all the animation to be closer to the art style of Oda, the creator of One Piece. And as someone who is current on One Piece and has followed it for almost my entire life because it's as old as I am,
Right.
this is a good thing. But the One Piece anime, the original, is fantastic. Highly recommend it. But if you need a repacing that's not as long, that takes out all the fluff and filler, there is a fan project that's already out there that has basically already done this called One Piece because they repaced the show. Anyways, you can find it out there. It's free. Anyways, have a good one, guys.
Thanks, Cousin Mike.
Nice.
But yeah, over 1,100 episodes. That takes a hot minute to watch, sir.
Yeah, sure does. All right, this one is from Devo, and it says it's to Cousin Mike.
This is for Cousin Mike, and you were asking about what kind of upgrade to get. And my recommendation is 1 gig fiber. And then call in and tell Charles how wonderful it is, because he would love to hear about someone else getting 1 gig fiber. By the way, even if you don't get 1 gig fiber, call in anyway and tell him that you got 1 gig fiber, because it just brings, we'll just call it joy. Yeah, that's what it is. Joy to his heart to know that someone else has 1 gig and he doesn't.
That's my white whale, man. That's my unicorn. I can't.
You know, I'll tell you, I don't even want 1 gig fiber. I just want symmetrical down and up. That's all I want.
I want parity, but I do want 600 minimum. But yeah,
I mean that'd be nice, but like I'd take more than the 10 up that I get.
Oh, sorry, you made me hurt. Check out T-Mobile. Why is it nerdy where fatherhood finds T-Mobile?
Did I mention before the show that I live in a really rural area? I got one choice, and that's it.
Yeah,
and it's one choice, and it's no good.
Well, move on down to Chattanooga, where it's got the best internet in the world.
I'll stay where I'm at.
I mean, why do you live in the Great White North? It sounds like you could work from anywhere.
Because it's where I grew up, and I've tried to leave, and I ended up back here for a long time. And when I finally got a job good enough to be able to go wherever I want, I bought a house. So, you know,
I mean, Chattanooga is not as hot as Atlanta. He's right. You know, that'd be close enough. And then when I come up to get Slurpees, we could hang out. So
there you go.
All right, here we go. Another one from Devo.
Joe, when you were talking about finding a hobby, and when Phil jumped in and suggested making whiskey, immediately my thoughts went to Breaking Bad, and then I thought of you, Joe, the Heisenberg of the Mormon world. That it'd be like a Baptist brewery. You know, I don't even know where to go with that. Only Phil would come up with that. I'm actually surprised that he didn't suggest you take up gardening and growing your own herbs for, giving to your close associates and friends for sampling and consumption. Now, I would suggest as a hobby starting a family, which is a lot of fun. It's very expensive, but it's a lot of work. Oh, that's right. You've got a family. Never mind.
So I'm down for the Mormon whiskey, and the symbol's going to be a burning bush because it's like the burning bush, but in your belly.
Oh, man. All right, here's another one from Devo.
So, Charles, you were talking about your motorcycle, taking it apart and having some spare bolts. Just to let you know that engines, when they're put together, are put together with spare parts, and this is a normal thing. So good for you. You found them. Now, the next person won't be so lucky, but you have them, they don't, and if you don't have any more, well, too bad.
Now, did you mark the bad dad jokes?
He told me there weren't any bad dad jokes this time.
All right. But, spare engine, that was almost a bad dad joke there.
All right, we got two more.
Phil talking about printers. About 12 years ago at my old job, I was throwing something away in the dumpster, and there in the bottom was a inkjet box, and next to it, a laser jet. I jump in, pull it out, take it home. It has a document feeder. It has fax. Ooh, exciting, right? And so I get it put back together, plug it into my home network, and boom, it worked great. It has worked now great for 12 years. And
Holy crap, dude.
I'm just never disappoints me. My wife, she wanted color. We got a inkjet. They disappoint. So for Christmas last year, we got a color laser jet, and she's been super excited, very happy. For all the headaches that I had to put up with, because I'm the technician, so I got to know all this stuff. I just got a laser jet. It's on the network. She's happy. And yes, USB. It works great when it works, and when it doesn't, it is a nightmare.
My wife got a printer a couple years back, and it's one of those ones where you actually pour the ink in, like you can visibly see when it's getting low.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she is absolutely loving it. So,
dun, dun, dun.
All right, and
I'm
one more.
wishing for those sponsorships tonight, man.
Keep doing the jingle.
Strange problems. I do.
Oh, what's that?
I was just playing like, you know what else I love? Golden Arches. Get your Big Mac today.
Oh man.
You're talking about strange problems. I do feel like my life has been a long episode of Stranger Things without the demonic presence. But
that's good, I guess.
My brother gave me a 91 Nissan Stanza. Long story on how I was given it, but suffice to say, it did have one strange issue. You would be driving down the highway, and suddenly the speedometer would go down to 0. And when this happened, a rate limiter would kick in, and you could not go over 62 miles per hour, 100 kilometers per hour. The only way to correct this was to turn off the engine. So I would just simply turn off the engine
while driving,
and then turn it back on. It was a clutch, so the engine never stopped spinning, and of course would just ignite right up and start driving again, and the speedometer would kick right back up. But it became more and more common, and so finally I bought a replacement speedometer, and it was just a defect. I did loan it to a friend one time and told them this is what happens, told them what they needed to do, and they did it, and they reported, yep, it did that, and they were able to reproduce my fix, if you will, while driving, though they said it made them a bit nervous, but after they did it once, I think they did it 2 or 3 times, and but they were thankful for the car.
So even replacing the speedometer didn't fix the problem. It's interesting. I did that on a motorcycle at 75 miles an hour. That was fun.
No, thank you.
So I once had a car where, well, it was a car the church owned, and we were restricted on how many miles we could go per month on it. and this is probably one of the dumbest things I've ever done, was I decided on the freeway, I'll just turn the car off because then the odometer's not going, right? So then
That's how those work.
And
Wait,
so,
if you go backwards, it'll roll the odometer backwards.
Just drive everywhere in reverse.
and then also goes the power steering and everything else. Yeah. I didn't do that very much any after. I did it once and I was like, yeah.
Wait. How many times did you do it, Joe?
Just the once.
You said very much.
Yeah, because I learned
that just once. You're gonna make baby Jesus cry if you lie on Wise and Nerdy. Come on.
Oh man. But it started back up, which was good, and we got to going. But yeah.
Look,
probably one of the dumbest things I've ever done.
Car gremlins are always weird.
I mean, life is so much easier with automatic cars, but you can solve a lot of problems with stick shifts real fast. Your starter doesn't work, doesn't matter. Roll it down the hill, pop the clutch, good to go. But yeah, all right. How many more do we got? We got some more.
That's it.
All right, roll that dice, and thank you, everybody. Thank you for cousin Mike and cousin John for calling in and leaving us speak pipes. I do love them. Those are great stories. And to me, it feels like you're a more of a part of the show when you do that. So please keep leaving those messages.
Oh, yeah.
Council of Dad.
That's not the section, sir.
Council of Dads.
Council
of Dads.
I'm calling DFACs the way you treat your kids.
Dads.
It's the Parliament of Papas. So what is our thing today? Oh, this one is from you, Joseph.
Yes. I went ahead and put it in there. Musicals. Do you love them or hate them?
Go ahead, Travis. What you got?
I actually really enjoy good musicals. Musicals get a bad rep. There's a lot of people like, I hate musicals. I used to feel like that. But then I realized, no, I don't hate musicals. It's just some of them are not my thing. And it's not that it's a musical. It's just whatever the story is. But, I mean, I mentioned one earlier, Anna and the Apocalypse. It's fantastic. Like, it's and the songs are great in it. What was another one? Another one that I watched fairly recently was Moulin Rouge. I'd never seen before. That's a great jukebox musical.
I've not seen that one.
Now, would you classify the classic Disney animated stuff as musicals?
Yep, absolutely. And those, love them. Love that kind of stuff. I mean, they're Broadway musicals. So, and it's one of those things where I did definitely go through that phase of I don't like them. And I think part of it was when I was younger, our school would go to like the high school or some of the community plays that would be musicals. And it wasn't my choice to go. And so because of that, like being kind of forced to go and watch these, I was like, I don't like this. And then it took me a while to kind of figure out, no, I actually do like musicals. It just depends on the story.
Yeah, the story and the cast, honestly, for me.
Cast helps too.
I tend to generically not like musicals. Grew up in the church. The Baptist church, there are such things as Easter cantatas, Christmas cantatas. What's a cantata? I thought you ordered it at Taco Bell. I couldn't tell you what a cantata is other than a whole bunch of people who think they can sing. They can't sing. And so that really scarred me growing up. But I was also raised on West Side Story, like the original West Side Story. Yeah. And we had those albums and The King and I and those kind of things. So I absolutely... Like Les Mis, I saw it in 1990 on PBS, the concert, but it was in the original 1980 Broadway cast returning in concert for like the 10th anniversary or something. I don't remember. I have the CDs somewhere, but that was just the people and the music writing, everything. It was amazing. And like Glee, I used to watch Glee when it was on TV. One of my creative partners then was like, oh, we got to watch it in theater kids. And I'm not a theater kid, but I did enjoy the writing behind the music on some of that and how they did some of the stuff. And that's where I fell in love with Wicked, which I'm very much looking forward to the movie because I've never made it to Broadway to see, or even off Broadway to see Wicked. But when TV shows just do it for the sake of doing
the random musical episode.
Yeah. I normally hate it. The only time I've liked it twice now.
Buffy
is legit. No, actually, I heard good things about it. By the time I got to see it, I just had passed my time and I didn't care. But close though. It's the almost the modern version. It's Magicians on Netflix, and
I haven't seen that.
They do one because it's all about magic, of course. But there's some kind of magical rule or something that they do it either for timing, or whatever. And it's this almost Glee-like compilation of songs that they do together.
Yeah.
And they did that one time it was because magic spells said they couldn't talk, but they could sing or something. I don't know. But both times, even as ridiculous as why they did it so well. They did it so well. It was so much fun. So that's kind of where I stand on it.
And to that point, like musicals in TV shows, it's like musical films. There are good ones and there are bad ones. Like Buffy was a great one. We did, for those were the days, we talked about the musical episode of Xena, Warrior Princess. That was fantastic. Like I couldn't believe how fun that was. And Supergirl actually had a really good musical episode. Partly because I liked it because it was a fun way to integrate Mixie Spitalik. And also they brought Grant Gustin back in as the Flash, and with him and Melissa having been on Glee,
there you go.
It worked because they're very good at it and the songs were great. So I liked it. But TV show episodes that are musicals, just like movies, it's hit or miss. Some of them are really good and some of them I just don't care. But I try not to look at any kind of genre as like, I just don't watch those. I don't like those. I used to think that about Westerns, and then I realized, no, I like a lot of Westerns. I just didn't love John Wayne Westerns growing up because and it wasn't for anything other than the association of like, that was old people stuff when I was a kid.
How old are you now?
I'm in my 40s now.
Me too. I guess just how it's introduced differently. I mean, I loved John Wayne, although the one I love is arguably probably one of the worst. Rooster Cogburn.
Oh no! Oh, that's great.
End. That's fun. He tosses the kid in the river to teach him to swim. It's rough, but it's fun. Is that True Grit? I thought it was
that's True Grit. Oh no, no. That was the sequel to True Grit.
Yeah. All right, Joe. What's your take on it?
For the longest time, I was like, no to musicals. Even though I grew up watching Disney, I didn't. For some reason, as a kid, I didn't look at that and say, "Oh, this is a musical." To me, growing up, musicals were always like Broadway, or it had to be real people in my mind. For whatever reason, that it had to be real people, and so I resisted it for the longest time. Other than maybe like Newsies. And that was mostly because my music teacher, whenever they didn't feel like teaching, just threw in Newsies. But I had a couple of sisters that really, really loved Newsies. And I've gone to a couple of different musical movies. I haven't actually gone to a Broadway show ever, but I've gone to a few different musical movies like Les Mis and The Greatest Showman. And they've got some great music in them. And they've got good stories, and so my wife makes sure to only pick the best of the best, and so my tastes around musicals have come around, but it's still definitely not like a go-to thing for me. Like when I'm sitting there thinking about something to watch, if I'm by myself or whatever, I'm definitely not picking a musical. But I'm not going to resist it if my wife wants to watch a musical.
I never watched Bing Crosby stuff till I met my wife, and she had me watch all the Road 2 movies, which were actually fantastic and fun. And then I watched a bunch of the other movies with her. And it is actually taking me to a spot where I love exploring new films. I gotta tell you, I love Bollywood. Like I went and watched by accident because we thought we were going to like an independent film. I can't even tell you what it was. Something she wanted to see that I liked the actor, and then like, sure, whatever, I'll go with you. And for whatever reason, our theater didn't show it, even though they said they were showing it. They showed Patan, which was an Indian Bollywood new action film, which I love because right in the middle of all this action, they just stopped and started dancing and singing, and it worked so well, and it was so fun. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I tell you, man, you and your wife need to watch, especially since she said she likes musicals. RRR.
I've watched RRR.
Watch it again because I keep forgetting you watch it. And I keep recommending it to you. It's such a fun movie.
I shared my wife calls it the nacho song.
The nachos. Yeah.
I shared that song with her, that scene. But yeah, RRR is a good one. Although I don't think it's technically Bollywood. I think it's somewhere else. But
it's another genre from India. Yeah,
it's a very good movie. I liked it a lot. I liked it a whole lot.
Yeah.
So,
do we have? Well, we got. So it's a rolling the dice time. Okay. We got 2 more seconds.
Yes, it is rolling the dice time.
Man, I thought we were past the dreaded joke section.
Oh, just for you.
Dad jokes are like Mojo Jojo. They're bad.
Dad jokes are like Kevin Spacey's. They should go away for a long time.
Wow. All right. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. This comes to us from DevoSite, since we haven't heard enough of him today. What kind of shoe do ninjas wear?
No, just no.
Sneakers.
Okay, Phil, it makes it worse. When he pauses for the punchline, it makes it so much like holding the needle in front of his face. Going, I'm going to stab you in a second. Not now, but I'm going to stab you in a second. Just do it.
Oh, man. What is lighter than a feather, yet the strongest man cannot hold it?
I don't know.
His breath.
I did know, I guess. That's what I thought of. So, you were a real bad dad joke?
Yeah.
All right. At the age of 4, a certain German dictator fell into a river and was drowning. And a Catholic priest happened to come along and saved him. It just goes to show the world. It just don't ruin the joke, asshole. It just goes to show.
Language.
Man, I can't even tell the joke now. Dang it. You ruined it all. The punchline was, it just goes to show that a lot of problems would be solved if priests would just keep their hands off of little kids. Boom. Travis, we got. I am so sorry, Travis. He is just hyped up on Dragon Con excitement. Just, oh my God, man. Oh my God.
Well, you know, I haven't sold a single copy of my autobiography, but that's just the story of my life.
I trusted you, Travis.
It's not mine. It's not mine. There is a Discord channel, and there's one person that just fills it with bad dad jokes. I figured I'd join in. That was the least bad of what was in there, just so you know.
So, Joe, what are you nerding out about right now?
I am nerding out about My Hero Academia Season 7. It has been fantastic. It's not over yet. It's still airing. But, oh, man, it has been so good. It keeps jumping around to different different points of reference, different character perspectives, and it's basically, I mean, it is the finale. I'm pretty sure they said this is the final season, and yeah, it has been amazing, just simply amazing.
I'm still in season 2. I need to get caught up.
Get good.
Yeah, I'm watching it with my daughter, so I have to wait on her.
Do you watch much anime, Travis?
I don't watch a ton, but I do appreciate a good amount of it. I've seen bits and clips of My Hero Academia, but I haven't sat down and watched a lot of it. Time for me to watch things just for fun, it's limited. So I don't tend to I love good anime. There's a lot. To give you an idea, the last one I was really watching regularly was a few years ago. I went back and started a rewatch of Yu Yu Hakusho.
Oh, it's a good one.
It's a great one.
Real good. Real good. Well, especially the first 2 seasons.
Yeah. Yep.
What did you say the name was? Yu Yu Hakusho?
Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yes.
Okay.
Yu Yu Hakusho.
Thank you. I just want to look it up and check it out. So what are you nerding out about?
It's one that you should watch, Charles. It's a good one.
Yeah.
That's what you say about every anime.
It's true.
Every anime.
Just don't watch the live action Yu Yu Hakusho. It's not good.
What do you think?
Although you did watch the live action.
Not of Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yes, you did. You talked about it on the show.
No, it's the Alchemy.
No, you watched the Yu Yu Hakusho one.
Is that what I watched? I actually kind of liked it, although it was a little weird. Is that when the bad guy gets like super buff at the end?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't understand a lot, and they left some things to be desired story-wise.
Well, that's because they took 2 seasons and mashed it into like 5 episodes.
Well, that's how rough. Good it wasn't. I mean, I didn't hate it. I kind of, when you reminded me, like, oh, I kind of enjoyed that, but I didn't remember watching it at all. So I got you. Okay. What about you, Charles? What are you nerding out about?
Lately, I've been nerding out about game Nightingale. It's kind of an open world survival game, but it's all set in a steampunk world with the Fey realms, and it's still in early access, but they've been doing a ton of work on it, and so I've been nerding out about that as they're like constantly revamping and adding new stuff to it. And then I did because I had time on the plane, actually start watching something new. I loved Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I started watching the series, and it's really good.
Series too.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm loving it. I think there's 8 episodes. I think I'm on episode 5. And I need to get back to it because I need to restart episode 5 because I was falling asleep, but it wasn't because of the show. I'd stayed up too late. But yeah, I've been nerding out about that. I love Guy Ritchie and like those movies anyway. So when I saw he was doing a series out of The Gentleman, which I didn't see right away, I didn't see that until just a few months ago. I loved it. So that's the big one I've been nerding out about. Plus, having just been in Scotland and Ireland and England like a month and a half ago, it's kind of fresh in my brain.
You do though. You really have to like Guy Ritchie to like The Gentleman, because it's very Guy Ritchie pacing, which in an hour and a half movie is really good. He gives you a lot of crazy, and then lets you breathe for a second, then gives you a lot of crazy. Every episode is like that for me. Yeah. Which I loved it. I did enjoy The Gentleman, but I could say it's probably not for everybody because it had that formula to it, and it's because it's not a standard up and down. It is just here's a little breathe, here's a little crazy, here's a little breathe, here's something you're going to hear about later. Don't worry about it, But yeah, I'm glad you're watching that. That was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I have been just recovering from Dragon Con here, and could talk about the little games I'm digging and playing. But what I'm actually going to talk about is my buddy Hugh. Hughes, who sometimes he comes out and watches the show with us here live. Couldn't be bothered tonight. Thanks, Hugh, for nothing.
But he gets real talkative when he imbibes some beverages.
He drinks. It's fake. I'll be honest, because everybody gives him grief at my house, and they shouldn't, because he's on vacation. And when he's on vacation, he's in drink mode. Now, he does have a rule for whatever reason, because when I'm on vacation, I do not have this rule, but he doesn't drink before 5. But every kid at some, like 8 or 9, as they hit that age around him, they start giving him grief about being an alcoholic, and we give him full permission to get him, to shred him. And he has a very sharp Yankee wit, and he shreds them. It's great. But yeah, Joe, I imagine you had some very interesting conversations on the way back home from Dragon Con each night.
Yep. He's a talker.
But something I forget we do, because we've known each other since I started podcasting basically 20 years ago, and he became part of the family. I mean, he does. All the kids look forward to him coming. He's like an uncle. At some point, when he sells the business that him and his brother run, he's going to move down here and essentially retire and blah blah. He's been on a few vacations with us, and we just have the same sense of humor to a certain level. And just like naturally, yesterday, I don't remember what we're talking about, but he said something that he's a Yankee. He likes to complain. He does it a lot. But whatever he's about to complain on, I just leaned into that Southern stereotypical be a man and suck it up. So I started giving the be a man speech, but he didn't stop complaining. So we were yelling at each other, doing 2 different bits at the same time until we just end it. and everybody was just cracking up. My wife's like, I don't know why you don't record this. It's like, because we hate each other when we record, number one.
Yeah, you fired him live on air.
I did. That's a whole nother story. But you don't think about it. We just go into it. And that's why when he was at Dragon Con for a few years before my wife started coming, I would let him stay in my room. And so every night after the con, we would absolutely pull up something and record and just get those kind of conversations that I'm sure you had in the car with him, Joe. Except we would do bits, and it's a lot of fun. He's like the Wish Phil Keating, and that's all right. I enjoy it. So that is
Howie Mandel. Wish Howie Mandel.
Yeah, you know what? That's also fair, I guess. That is also fair. So one last run around the ring for Dragon Con. What was one of the coolest? I mean, we talked about our creativity, we talked about our panels, but what was one just the randomly coolest moments you saw or had at the con?
I went to one panel that wasn't involving people that I knew or in some way in my orbit, and that was they had the original voice cast of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
And I went to that Sunday morning, and I am a huge fan of that show, of all Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles stuff, and of voice acting in general. And Rob Paulson is somebody that I just absolutely adore. And so to get to see him on stage with Townsend Coleman and Cam Clark and Barry Gordon, and I cannot remember her name that voiced April O'Neil. Like seeing the five of them on stage and hearing the stories and hearing them talk was great. And Cam Clark, at one point, somebody in the audience, was doing their question, and they just said Leonardo was my favorite turtle, and he got up and he ran out into the crowd and ran towards him in slow motion and gave him a big old hug. It was awesome. It was so much fun.
That's so good. Mine was actually not for myself, but going back to the Danny Trejo panel, Tyra and Shane, that's Tyra's husband, were sitting in the front row and watching. And Danny Trejo has just such a great heart, great energy. Just tells
I can't believe he's 80 years old.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, because it doesn't come off. He's not that way, right? It's just crazy. But watching Tyra, like every story he told, she would start bawling, and then she'd get herself together, and he'd tell another story. She'd just start bawling. It just moved her so much every time. That was, I just love seeing it.
Yeah, well, and I wrote down a quote from Danny Trejo during that I absolutely loved, which was, do whatever you can for the guy next to you and life gets better. Like that was awesome. Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I thought was just hilarious. I went to a Roswell panel because it's the 25th anniversary of Roswell, and someone in the front row, hard of hearing or deaf or whatever, they needed a sign language interpreter. And so they had a sign language interpreter there, and one of the panelists kept using the F-bomb over and over and over. And so I chuckled way more than I ought to have every time that happened, because I look over at the sign language interpreter, he's just flipping off the audience. And he got real into it too. Like there were a couple times when it wasn't just one flip; he both handed it, and he was real. He just it was a hoot.
He double fisted it, huh? And I am sure that you showed Kelsey the picture of you that I took.
I didn't show it to her, but I told her about it.
Oh, of course not. That's the show, everybody. You didn't hear nothing from me, Kelsey. There's no picture. Nothing happened. We'll see you next year, Dragon Con, everybody.
For these nerdy dads on social media, Charles at Rock God of Podcasting, Joe at Joseph_Ard. Check out the website, wiseandnerdy.com. And as always, they may not be your father, but they'll always be your daddy.
Via by Kurt everywhere, and at TVsTravis everywhere. American Express is accepted. Oh, there's a picture, random kid. Don't worry about it. I'll show you later.
By the way, after going to that TMNT panel, I am